back now with the roundtable. They're going to tell me something I don't know. Michelle, Dana, Aaron are with us. Michelle, we'll start with you. Tell me something I don't know.
All right, so Steve, brace yourself. Charles Evers, the older brother of slain civil rights leader Medgar Evers, according to the Daily Caller, has endorsed Donald Trump. The Charles Evers, first African-American mayor elected in the state of Mississippi since Reconstruction, is supporting Donald Trump for the presidency of the United States. He says that Donald Trump will be good for jobs, that all of us have a little bit of racism in us, including himself. He became a Republican, endorsed Ronald Reagan in 1980, and is one of those black people Donald Trump says will support him.
Wow, that is going to be something I imagine we'll hear an awful lot about from Donald Trump.
In 1955, the death of Emmett Till was just one more reason for Medgar Evers to continue his work as a civil rights activist. He was the NAACP's first field representative in Mississippi. Having grown up in the Jim Crow South, Medgar was a man on a mission.
There were any number of things in his childhood that really made him acutely aware of the injustices. And as a young man who volunteered to go into the army to fight for his country in World War II, and then come home and find that he was still a second-class citizen, not being able to register and vote. He said, this has to change, and he decided that he would be a part of that change.
Evers fought for change in the racially charged climate of Mississippi.
Mississippi was considered the South Africa of America. It was like the most oppressive state, the most anger and fear and hatred and violence. And so his courage in the context of that state took on bigger than life meaning.
Medgar Evers, like so many black people whose families before them were raised in the South, actually loved the South. And they had this tremendous hope that things would change.
But as Medgar worked on the front lines of change, he placed his life in jeopardy.
Just working for civil rights in Mississippi, it was a strike against you. You're a marked person. He knew that.
Medgar and his family lived with death threats. It was a life of barricaded doors and ever-drawn window blinds and safety drills for the children.
He taught them how to fall to the floor with the sound of gunfire and crawl to the bathroom, the bathtub, and always take care of their little brother.
Despite the dangers in early 1963, Evers began an active campaign to force the issue of racial inequality in Jackson, Mississippi. He organized demonstrations, went head-to-head with the mayor and the city's business leaders.
We were determined under Medgar's leadership to forge ahead, to crack the system. And they were determined to wipe him out because he was a leader.
On May 28, 1963, the NAACP began sit-ins at Woolworth's, where blacks were not served at the lunch counter. That night, someone threw a Molotov cocktail at Evers' home. Damage was minimal, but the message was clear.
The threats, the danger, made life so precious to us. Very seldom did we ever part without saying, I love you, and certainly without embracing each other.
Prophetically, at an NAACP gathering in Jackson on June 7th, Evers told the crowd, I love my children and I love my wife, and I would die and die gladly if that would make a better life for them.
We knew. We held each other tightly a couple of nights before he was killed. And we both cried together. And he said, it's not going to be long. I said to him, I know.
On the night of June 12th, here in what was then the NAACP office, Evers watched with other movement leaders as President John F. Kennedy delivered an impassioned speech on civil rights.
We face, therefore, a moral crisis as a country and a people. We have a right to expect that the Negro community will be responsible, will uphold the law, but they have a right to expect that the law will be fair, that the Constitution will be colorblind.
Medgar was thrilled with the speech, and then met with his NAACP colleagues late into the evening. When their meeting was over, he drove home. In a nearby vacant, wooded lot, a sniper crouched behind some honeysuckle. Medgar's car turned into his driveway. As Medgar stepped out of his car, he slammed the door shut.
We had made a pact that whichever one of us were driving, we would never get out on the driver's side because the driver's side faced this vacant lot, and we knew that it was a wonderful place for an assassin to hide. That night he was so tired until he got out on the driver's side.
Evers was shot in the back and fell to the ground. Medgar and Murley's worst fears had come true.
I ran to the front door and saw him lying there and screamed. It was only then that the children left that area and came out to join me and asked their father, "Please get up, Daddy, get up, Daddy."
No longer a father, a husband, an activist, Medgar Evers was now a part of history. Unlike the murders of so many before him, his death was not considered a lynching, but an assassination.
It was a real sign of changes to come that his body came all the way to Washington and his widow and little children went to the White House, and that he was buried in Arlington Cemetery and accepted as somebody, as a martyr.
He must be looked upon as one who helped liberate and free the state of Mississippi, the South, and the nation. You know, he had many opportunities to leave, to do something else, but he decided to stay. And he paid a heavy price. He gave his life.